Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Magnesium Deficient Anxiety webinar with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your attention to this topic. I know it's very important to a lot of people because we are in a highly stressful and anxious, antagonized time in our culture, whether you're here in the United States or around the world, and a lot of people are not sure how to deal with their anxiety, their stress, their headaches, the pressure, the challenges, the chaos. It's too much. And yet we biologically, as human beings, are at a cellular level totally competent and capable of handling this and a whole lot more. It's nowhere near the survival that we've had to deal with for thousands of years. So Dr. Carolyn Dean is here today, and she's going to give you some good news. I mean, some great news, some super encouraging news about how to manage anxiety, stress, and other issues that you have biologically in your body and in your systems with some very basic products that are going to help you. Before I bring her on, I just want to let everybody know once again that Dr. Carolyn Dean is a medical doctor, and she's also a naturopath. She's been on the leading edge of the medical and natural medicine community for over 30 years, ladies and gentlemen. She has an extraordinary resume, an incredible contribution that she's made to people's health, vitality, and well-being all around the world. You're probably familiar with her because she has written the legendary landmark and record-breaking Magnesium Miracle, and it's now in its third edition. You can get it on Amazon, and this most recent edition has over 600 medical references, ladies and gentlemen, 600 medical references, scientific proof and evidence to show the importance of magnesium in the body. So sit back, enjoy this webinar. You've got great information. You're going to see the slides, and you're also going to be able to have a replay of it that you can take notes and share with your friends at any time. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to give you an extraordinary opportunity to enjoy some great gifts. So welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Thank you, Ginney, and thank you, Chad, for setting up this session for us. There's a lot of complexity involved with getting the webinars to you. And in the first slide, we talk about complex endocrinology. So there's a complexity that allopathic medicine has attributed to this nervous disorder called anxiety. Now, the trouble is that they can't say what causes anxiety. It's a mental illness, they say, and they say maybe it stems from brain changes, which is scary in itself. They do say environmental stress has a factor, just the conflict in our lives, I suppose they're referring to. And of course, they bring in genetics, and that's something that's stressful in itself because we don't think we can change our genes. So the faulty brain circuits controlling fear and other emotions are identified as the problem, but what's the underlying reason for those faulty brain circuits? So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, just a bit of a sidebar, because I like to know what people are feeling. I took some yohimbe. It's herbal stimulant. Many years ago, some of my patients started talking about yohimbe and that it revved them up, kind of a natural speed. Since then, you'll find it promoted for erectile dysfunction and even depression. But when I took it to check it out, Ginney says I'm always trying things. So I checked it out, and I just had a panic attack. I got anxious. I had to hold on to a door frame to keep myself from just vibrating away. So I felt that gave me an experience with anxiety, with depression, not depression, with anxiety and a panic attack. When my adrenals kind of packed out, when I was so stressed out doing the AIDS chronic fatigue research in New York, I started getting kind of vibrating and weak and exhausted feeling and close to anxiety. And what those experiences told me is that anxiety is physiologic. If I could bring it on with a herb, it meant my body was triggered on a biochemical level. Now, in the next slide, over medicating anxiety, allopathic medicine, they also know that anxiety is biochemical, but instead of looking at natural biochemistry and what the body needs to work properly, and I say it's magnesium and the B vitamins mostly, instead they go to synthetic chemical drugs. And there are 84 anti-anxiety medications, and that's just overwhelming. And what's happened with the main anxiety drugs, the benzodiazepines, is that they blunt your feeling of anxiousness, and then the side effects are drowsiness, irritability, dizziness, impaired memory, attention problems, and physical dependence. So there's really no big upside to taking a drug, especially if it's a magnesium or a B vitamin deficiency. And on top of all that, these drugs are addictive. When you look at the fine print on these drug labels, it says for short-term use only. And we know they're used for years at a time. The next slide is what magnesium deficiency triggers come up for people. Now, this is a huge slide. I mean, it's just too many things going on here. But that's why we have my book, the Magnesium Deficient Anxiety booklet, for you to read in detail about these triggers. And just to quickly go over a couple of them. Air pollution is going to be a problem because it puts your bronchioles into spasm. If you don't have magnesium deficiency, your bronchioles won't go into spasm. When people are short of breath, they get anxious. Alcohol will trigger because it releases adrenaline, and the adrenaline will start pumping your heart. Increased heart rate can make people anxious. If you've got too much calcium, it bumps out your magnesium, and you get anxious and irritable because of magnesium deficiency. And it goes on and on. Dehydration itself, we'll talk about that later in the protocol to follow. But if you're dehydrated, then your heart reacts, and also your body reacts to the lack of water, even to the point that if you don't have enough water, you're not taking minerals into your cells, and those minerals aren't there in your cells to do their job. The list goes on to electrolyte imbalance, which I just sort of touched on. Instead of looking at magnesium in an electrolyte panel, they're mainly tracking calcium and chloride and sodium. I know it may be hard for people to look at this list and say, well, I don't know if that's causing my anxiety, but what you'll find, exposure to stimulants will speed up your heart, and then it'll add to your feelings of anxiety. I think the biggest trigger, and what I'd like you to contemplate, is the low blood sugar that's caused by a high sugar diet. You eat a donut and a coffee with 3 teaspoons of sugar in it in the morning, your blood sugar escalates, it elevates, and insulin comes out to drop down your blood sugar as you put sugar into your cells. When the blood sugar drops precipitously, adrenaline comes out from your adrenal glands to bring your blood sugar back up. And while it's doing that, it pumps up your heart. So you'll have a low blood sugar episode and think it's a panic attack. If you go to your doctor and describe it, they'll say, oh, you had a panic attack. Here's a benzodiazepine. And even the sugar diet itself will deplete magnesium. I've talked about this many times. It takes 28 atoms of magnesium to process 1 molecule of glucose, and double that amount of magnesium to metabolize 1 molecule of fructose. So if you're switching to fruit, thinking that that's safe for you, then you're actually depleting more magnesium. So I'll leave it to you to get the book, and we'll have the link for you at the end of the webinar so that you can really assess for yourself, oh yeah, maybe I'm taking too much calcium, maybe I'm not drinking enough water, and maybe I should cut back on the gluten. And maybe my medications are affecting me and affecting my magnesium levels. And we're not telling you to change all these things at once. We're saying start taking your magnesium or take more magnesium and then see what's left over, because the magnesium is going to help so many aspects. The next slide is about magnesium managing fear. And this is important for us to realize how crucial, critical, how effective magnesium can be for something as horrifying as just a fear, a sense of impending doom that can come over a person who's in the grips of panic attack. So in the Journal of Neuroscience, they concluded that the elevation of brain magnesium was occurring. They felt that it helped the plasticity of the cortex. Now, what plasticity means is just the brain being able to switch off this fear in the face of putting magnesium into the brain. The next slide, the magnesium deficiency symptoms are low energy, weakness, trigger happy adrenals, just forcing out adrenaline, where you just get some little noise behind you and you jump and panic. Muscle tension, insomnia, headaches, even migraines, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, tingling extremities, uneasiness and irritability, inability to sit still or stay still, and restlessness. So when people look at the magnesium deficiency symptoms and kind of overlay their anxiety symptoms, they're quite similar. And the next slide has a list of anxiety symptoms: heart palpitations, dizziness, shortness of breath, panic, fear, sleep problems, can't stay still or calm, cold, sweaty, tingling, hands and feet, shortness of breath, dry mouth, nausea, muscle tension. So when you think, well, I'm having anxiety because you're having these symptoms, well, who's to say you aren't having magnesium deficiency symptoms? And that's what I'm trying to get across here in this webinar, is that you may have been misdiagnosed, you may have misdiagnosed yourself, and until you kind of clear up your magnesium deficiency by saturating with magnesium, you won't really know what's left over. The next slide, these are some words from, I think they might be from the Magnesium Miracle 2017 edition. How do we graduate from being a calm person in control of our nervous system to an anxious, fearful individual? I say it's a gradual but chronic decrease in magnesium reserves. So when the body is stressed, the reserves of magnesium are lowered. And when they are lowered in the reserve slot, the muscles and the bones, they dump into the bloodstream. And then we are able to cope. This is how it should be. We should have our reserves so that when we're stressed, we have the magnesium available in the bleachers for us to balance out the stress. So just, the next sentence about feeling both calm and alert. But what we want to do is just realize that the body is in control if we give it the right building blocks. The next slide is how magnesium deficiency can lead to a lack of energy. The lack of proper nutrients, the magnesium B complex, the lack of sleep by magnesium deficiency, the underlying infections and inflammations from lack of our nutrients, leading to fatigue, depression, irritability, anxiety, and even thoughts of suicide. And just to give a balance here, I'm coming up to a slide about how the magnesium and B vitamins work for you. But then the next slide is about magnesium deficient adrenals. I've already mentioned this a few times, actually. The adrenals under low blood pressure, low blood sugar situations or stressful situations, even low blood pressure, actually, you can get surges of adrenaline that make you think you're having an anxiety attack. The next slide, I do want to throw in the conflict that can occur and create anxiety. What we say in Total Biology, which is about the conflict basis of disease, is that anxiety is a normal attribute of the biological brain. It's designed to keep us alert in order to stay alive. Trouble is, we've become hyper alert and kind of hyper paranoid and hyper afraid of so much in our environment. Sometimes even scared to eat certain foods. We're just too hyper about all the stress that's around us and about all the stressful information that surrounds us as well when we go on Dr. Google and try to find out what's wrong with us. There's just too many reasons. We try to narrow that down, give you the basics of most chronic disease, which I think are magnesium and mineral deficiencies and yeast overgrowth. And that's the ground that I'm working on. So anyway, continuing on about total biology, if a predator comes toward us, we have to be on our guard. But if our anxiety seems to be on overload, then it becomes re-triggered every time we get into a situation that seems like a previous situation. With the next slide, globus hystericus, that's a condition or an aspect, I guess you could say, of anxiety, stress, panic attacks, where your throat kind of closes up and you can't talk, you can't yell, you can't take care of yourself. This story in Total Biology about how a person can develop kind of an ancestral fear and anxiety picture about seeing a movie where the woman has to cover her child's mouth so they won't make a sound. If someone who has panic attacks, it's possible that in their ancestry, there was a sound that created a situation where people died. So your throat has to close off. You have to be able to shut that off. And that's what anxiety and panic can do for a person. So everybody has a program of panic somewhere because it helps us survive. But it can become exaggerated, and some people can't control their anxiety. Any stressful scene that we see can force us to relive our previous stress. It's like they're in layers and layers. And a stress or trigger today can trigger a stress that you had as a child, and you really don't even know where it's coming from. Now, all that being said, if you kind of recognize, oh yeah, I was anxious as a child, and it was because, my parents weren't really available to me. They weren't protecting me. And I did feel stressed. I felt I had to take care of everything. Even just intellectually knowing that can actually distance a person from their today anxiety and help them get that detachment so that they don't get completely caught up in an anxiety or panic attack. We do make referrals to our total biology consult, Dr. David Holt. You can talk to customer service about that referral if you feel you want to discuss with someone where your conflict lies. The next slide is about the Bach flower remedies. And this is one of the first modalities I've learned, and it's very helpful just to have something. Is it a talisman? Is it a placebo? Does it really work? We do know the Bach flowers work with animals and infants and children, so we know they have a physical effect. And what a person could do is have some rescue remedy or walnut or aspen or mimulus on hand to deal with the aspects of anxiety and panic that they may be experiencing. It kind of gives you that little bit of detachment. Another detachment, I haven't put it on the slide, is if you could sing in the face of anxiety. There's something about singing, which is a right brain activity, that will take you out of the worry center and the worry and stress that you're going through. Now, people have gotten back to me and say, yeah, gosh, that actually works. And we're not saying the Bach flowers or singing or even EFT, emotional freedom technique. I haven't put down a slide about that, but that's another modality that we use. Actually, Chad, I'll get you to put the EFT module as part of the package for people at the end of the webinar, because that can be helpful while you're waiting for your magnesium saturation to occur. These small kind of first aid techniques can help you distance yourself from your fears. The next few slides, they're about the B complex. And this is where people will say to me about my slides, there's just too many words. But because I know these slides are going to be available to you after the seminar, and you can read them at your leisure, I always include more information. What we've got with the B complex, these are the ones that are in our Realign capsules. We've got the thiamine that fuels energy in the Krebs cycle. You've heard me talk about the Krebs cycle and how magnesium is necessary for 6 of the 8 steps in the Krebs cycle. Well, B1 thiamine is also in there. The following slide is the one about the Krebs cycle. We're not going to spend any time on this, but following that, continuing the B complex slides, I have the B2, 3, 5, and 6, and how they also work on the Krebs cycle. They work on the nervous system. They help manufacture serotonin, melatonin, dopamine. They're absolutely essential. The third slide about the B complex is finish up with B12 and folic acid and biotin. And all of them are in their Realign in their methylated form or their food-based form. So they're very well absorbed. They're low potency, so that they're not synthetic. Most high potency, all high potency B complexes are synthetic, and the body isn't really that great at dealing with some synthetic nutrients, as far as I can make out. If you take high enough amounts of synthetics, it can jam up the receptors and finally cause something to occur. But you're far better off using methylated or food-based B complex. So those are the basics of dealing with anxiety. We want to leave time for Ginney to go over our total body reset, which is the next slide. And we will have plenty of time for questions, because I know there are a lot of people on the call, on the webinar, and we want to get to all your questions. So, Ginney, I'll ask you if I've left anything out of the basics before you help people with the protocol that we really would like them to follow.
Okay, Carolyn, let me ask a couple questions that have come up, and then we'll go over the protocol. I want to can you say a few words about the magnesium RBC test? People want to know how they determine if they are magnesium deficient, and also they want to know when can they switch to a maintenance dose versus a saturation dose?
Yes, I had to start talking about a magnesium blood test because the serum magnesium test was so inaccurate. The serum test is always going to look good because your serum perfuses your heart, and the heart absolutely needs magnesium in order to keep it functioning. The heart is one big muscle. The highest amount of magnesium in the body is in the heart. If the heart doesn't have enough magnesium, it starts going into palpitations or atrial fibrillation and, heaven forbid, a heart attack. Serum RBC is an okay test. The best test is an ionized magnesium test, but it's only in research laboratories at this point. We're trying to push and push and push to get it as an accurate magnesium test in all the standard labs, but it's not there yet. So magnesium RBC is an okay test to follow your levels and to try to ensure that you're at the highest levels of the magnesium RBC. The test can be gotten at requestatest.com. The price of it, I think, is still around $49, which is less than my copay. So you can get your own test, but then what you want is, if the range is 3.8 to 6.5, you want to be at the highest levels of that range. Is that enough, Ginney?
Yep, that's good. And also, let's just talk a little bit about the timing. We've got some people on here who've just started to use the Remeg 4 days ago. One of the gals is just taking 4 drops a day, which is perfectly fine, not a problem. But let's talk about the timing of actually achieving a certain level of saturation or relief. Carolyn, what do you think about that?
Right. We have people who are very sensitive to everything, to foods, to the environment, to stress, and they will even say to us that every time I take a new supplement, I get more anxious, or I feel that it's too much, and it makes me think I'm allergic to it. Well, with magnesium, especially with the form we use, it's very safe. We don't see allergies to it. We just see that when people's 800 enzymatic processes in the body have been deficient for decades often, and you start waking them up, it's like your arm over the back of a chair getting numb. When you take your arm off the back of the chair, it starts to wake up and tingle and feel worse than when it did when it was numb. So it's like a numbness that's waking up. So that's why some of our folks have to be on just a couple of drops in their liter of sea salted water a day to slowly get their body used to the fact that this is something new. It's not going to harm you. It's going to help you. And you're going to get over feeling this revved up situation that's so different from feeling weak and fatigued. It's like people don't even know what it's like to be awake. In terms of building up, well, we definitely have had people who've built up from a couple of drops a day, and now they're on their 2 and 3 teaspoons, which tends to be what we call the saturation dose. I had to take 4 teaspoons for over a year before my heart palpitations calmed down. And adding the Remite helped me because I think I was treating other mineral deficiencies with Remag. So when I did the Remite, I needed less Remag. But it took me several years before I got to the point where I needed less than 3 teaspoons. Then I needed less than 2, and now I only take 1. And how I gauge that is my stool would get a little loose when I took more than I required. But that's not, if you're getting loose stool in the beginning, that's more from a leaky gut and yeast overgrowth and intestinal toxicity, or just, plain massive stress. You can't look at the first couple of months having loose stools as being magnesium saturated. We really have to look at 6, 8, 12, 18 months of taking saturation magnesium to get your body saturated. And often the blood tests, the magnesium RBC test does not give us a good gauge of that. People will say, well, you know, it looks like I have 6 on my magnesium RBC test. Isn't that enough? But I still have insomnia. I still have leg cramps. So if you still have magnesium deficiency symptoms, which you can learn about in various of my magnesium books, or Google a blog called Gauging Magnesium Deficiency Symptoms, look at the symptoms of magnesium deficiency. Look at your symptoms. If you're still getting anxious, then it's possible that you still are magnesium deficient. So I know there's much more to it. That's why, you know, we have such great customer service, so that people can ask their questions of us as you're going along in the process. So back to you, Ginney.
Okay, let me just ask a couple questions that came in, because we did offer people to ask those. And also, yes, let me just say right now, support, SUPPORT at rnareset.com is the way to contact our 24-hour customer support. You'll contact one of our health guides, the people who are guiding you on your journey to health. And if they don't have the basics of what you need, then they will contact Dr. Dean on your behalf. So you're always going to feel properly supported. And I'm so thrilled that on the chat line here, several people have already commented about our customer support and how great it is. And it really is good. I mean, we've just got extraordinary people. They're very well educated. They're very good with all Dr. Dean's content and her information. They all use the products themselves. They've all had some kind of a health recovery, and they all are very willing to help you recover your health as well, like I said, as your guide to health. So a couple people wrote in, Carolyn, some things. Now, one thing I just want to do, like, for example, here's a perfect example, Carolyn. Okay, one of our lovely customers, we just love this gal. She recently lost her mom. She says she's had the worst anxiety of her life. She's been using Remag for a couple years already. She's been using Remite, and now she's taking about 3 teaspoons of Remag a day, and she's using the lotion. But she is just, you know, she's suffering from grief.
Yeah.
How can she reconcile the two? The grief of losing her mother and that anxiety, knowing that she is taking saturation doses of the magnesium. Is this where the Bach flower or total biology?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we don't want to use magnesium as a drug to suppress anything. You have to go through the grieving process, but it can be eased. You can get a little detachment from it by using the Bach flowers. Sometimes the homeopathic remedies are helpful too, and the total biology can be helpful. I mean, there's so much involved when someone in your family dies, so many layers of possible conflict that can be occurring. So yes, Bach flowers and Dr. Holt to give you perspective on what you're going through and allow you to go through what you're going through.
Yes, absolutely. And know 100% that you're supporting yourself biologically. And that's very good too, because you do get additional peace of mind, even though you've got bad anxiety right now, Karen, and we know and love you very much. But also just keep in mind, it's nowhere near what it could be had you not have the support of all the products underneath you. So you're probably doing better, even though I know you're very uncomfortable, and losing a parent just sucks. Believe me, it's terrible. Okay. Now, let me also just say this, Carolyn, a lot of people think that there should be some kind of a modification on their initial dose of magnesium based on their body weight or size. Can you talk about that? Because we usually just say start with a 1/4 teaspoon, build your way up. Why do we say that? And why don't we say if you weigh this many pounds, you take this much, so type of a thing?
Yeah, because it depends on many more things than just your weight. I'm pushing 105 pounds, and I needed 4 teaspoons. And someone else who's 250, 300 pounds, they may not need that amount. So it really goes on how much magnesium you're burning off now, how much you burned off in the past, what your magnesium stores look like. This is not a drug either. This is something that can do so many things. That's why customer service and education is so important. This is why I couldn't get any of the magnesium or mineral companies to make a concentrated, non-laxative, high-potency magnesium, because it does open up all these pathways. It starts waking people up, and we really have to be careful how we discuss it with people. You cannot just start with 2 teaspoons a day without your cells opening up to the magnesium, dumping out toxins, yeast toxins, heavy metals, drug toxins. There's so much that the magnesium does that we have to be aware of as responsible owners of this company. We have to tell you to start low and go slow. And maybe that's not the same for even 90% of people. But with anxious people, where you don't want to feel even a smidge worse, we are going to start low and go slow.
Okay, very good. Excellent, excellent. Okay, now let's go to the protocol and look a little bit about that, so that people understand what we're talking about when we're looking at the protocol, and also for people who've never used the Remag, what they can expect. Now, also, Carolyn, let me just say, can you explain why? I mean, it's so offensive, I think, to some people's minds that magnesium could be, this deficiency could be behind all this. I mean, how can it really be that simple?
Yeah, it can. I was amazed when I first started researching magnesium for the book. I was totally amazed, and the reason why it's kind of difficult for people to get it is because it's not anywhere in our education in public school. It's not in our medical education. It's not on the media. It's not brought up in all the crazy medical TV shows or movies. You just hear derision about nutrients. But if you go back, I'll ask Chad to go back to that Krebs cycle. If you go back to that Krebs cycle chart, you look at what to make energy, what the body has to go through. It's taking blood sugar and making it into glucose 6-phosphate. And then it goes into fructose 6-phosphate. And then it's fructose 1,6-phosphate. And it's using magnesium twice. And each step, you have to go through this incredible biochemical reaction. And it's like nobody even considers the amazing amount of work that the body is doing to do any little function. And each step in those pathways takes a vitamin and or a mineral in order to proceed. That's how complicated and complex we are.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very good. All right. Excellent. I know it is so incredible. I mean, we really are miraculous. And that is why we say at a biological, at a cellular level, our products are all geared at the cellular level. This is happening in the mitochondria, right, Carolyn?
Yes, right. The Krebs cycle works in the mitochondria. There are 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria in every cell. Now, there are no mitochondria in red blood cells, And that's like a sidebar on the magnesium RBC, the magnesium red blood cell test, because there aren't any mitochondria in the red blood cells, which is where most of the magnesium hangs out in the other cells. So it doesn't make the RBC magnesium test that accurate. But back to the mitochondria. Yeah, awesome work done by the mitochondria. And now in the crazy biohacker world and a lot of the alternative medicine world, you hear about, oh yeah, mitochondria are really important. We have to use all these very expensive supplements to help our mitochondria, and oh, there may be genetic problems, and oh yeah, it's doom and gloom about the mitochondria. And here what we're saying is, well, actually, if you want your mitochondria to work, just saturate yourself with magnesium, because it's required in 6 of the 8 steps in the function to make your energy. So there.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to go over the protocol now. I want to say, Christina, you're asking how much magnesium, how much Remite, this and that. This is what you want to tune into. I'm going to review the protocol right now. I'm going to let everybody know that this protocol is tattooed on the foreheads of every single person who works in customer service. It comes in your product box. It's on our website. It's a FAQ that we have. You get it in a piece of paper in your box. We try to make this available to everybody. It's on our product labels. So you should be able to find this information very easily, but I'm going to go over it here right now. So what we say is, once you order your products, the first thing that you want to do on the next slide, Chad, is to start with adequate hydration. Dehydration is common. Dr. Dean is very concerned about dehydration. And really, actually, ladies and gentlemen, it is a big issue for a lot of people with chronic illness. And I don't know how many people we talk to during the course of the day when we ask them if they're drinking their water, and they're like, kind of, sort of, maybe. You know, and it's like, please drink your water, people. So it really is, we want a half of your body weight in pounds, in ounces of water. If you weigh 100 pounds, you're going to drink 50 ounces of water. Everybody says, oh, that's so much. But really, honestly, it's what your body requires. And after you get that water in your body, and you see how good you feel, and you see your skin start to rejuvenate, and you see your bowels start to operate properly, and you see your mind get clear, you'll stick with the water, okay? Now, the next thing we want to say is also, you're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of the Celtic salt. The real Redmond's real salt is fine. The pink Himalayan sea salt, you're going to add that to every quart of your drinking water. We know for a fact that there are no 64-pound people running around on the planet unless they're small children. So we know that everybody can at least drink 1 quart of water a day. That's what we're banking on. You're going to do at least 1 quart. And in that, we want you to start with a 1/4 teaspoon of your 72 trace mineral sea salt. Very important. Those little trace minerals are like teeny tiny spark plugs, and they go in your cells and start firing up functions as well. They're not as prolific as the whole high-end magnesium and Remite minerals that we have, but they're good and they're helpful. So we want you to do that. Okay, now the next slide, we're going to talk about Remag. Remag is what they say, you know, our customers have so many words for Remag. I wish I could remember them all, but one thing they say is liquid gold. Remag is liquid gold. And I like to go with that because I actually think it's pretty close to true. Somebody earlier in the webinar typed in and said, can you please review the different kinds of magnesium? For example, I take magnesium malate, L-threonate, 2-AEP, and Remag. Okay. I'm going to explain about Remag, and then I'm going to talk to a little bit about these other forms. Okay, first of all, Remag is a 60,000 part per million concentration. Okay, that's part A. That means it's like taking a bowling ball and stuffing it down into the size of a gumball. That's how concentrated the magnesium is. All right, so you take a bowling ball and you stuff it inside of a gumball, and you don't lose any of the integrity of the magnesium. And then on top of that, you do one more thing. You shrink it down to the size that can actually slip into the cells and get into the mitochondria. What were we just talking about? Magnesium, not in the bloodstream, but in the mitochondria. This is the deal breaker maker, and this is what makes Remag so special. So you're going to want to 60,000 part per million concentration of a 99.99% elemental magnesium in a picometer form. You can't beat it. Nobody can touch it. It's the most amazing stuff. And it is super strong and it is concentrated. So that's why we want you to dilute it in that water. And it is super strong. So sometimes people, like our good friend Adrian, is only going to start by taking 4 little drops, and that's okay. Each drop of Remag, 2.5 milligrams of magnesium. Okay, now let me just say that. Each drop of Remag, 2.5 milligrams of magnesium. And yet I looked at this 2-AEP magnesium from some other company. I've never even heard of it before. And that's 37.7 milligrams per tablet. Do you understand how these products all have to be compounded with something else? A malate is magnesium and a malic acid. L-threonate, they're compounds. Why are they compounds? Because they can't be Remag. They're just like, you know, the girls who didn't, always the bride, never the bride, always the bridesmaid. Remag is the bride. And these others have to be compounded with something else because their magnesium ion size is too big for the cells. So they have to try to dance in with somebody else. I'm telling you, Remag is the best. Now, if you're using these other products, personally, it's up to you. We never say to discontinue anything. Dr. Dean is one of the directors of the Nutritional Magnesium Association, and we are all for magnesium all day, every day. But if you've got Remag, you've got more than enough. I mean, probably. And these other things that you're paying money for, those finances could be redirected to other products that would be more beneficial. For example, like let's say Remite and or another bottle of Remag. That's the way I would see it. So that's my personal advice to you. I've been doing this for a long time. And plus I hear the testimonies all day, every day. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, next slide, is our Remag lotion. We are so absolutely pinpoint thrilled with Remag lotion. Everybody loves it. It is super silky smooth. It's not sticky. The recipe for the product is 200 milligrams of Remag in a teaspoon, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a lot of magnesium in your Remag, 1 teaspoon of Remag lotion. And it is working for people. And we've got a little testimonial here where a customer's mother refused the Remag oral, but without knowing it, she used the Remag lotion as her body lotion, and the rheumatoid factor is no longer showing in her blood test. Now, that's a crafty daughter and a fun mother. So she's like, okay, Mom, you're not going to take the oral stuff. Guess what? Here's this beautiful lotion I bought. And so she's just using the lotion. She doesn't know one thing about it. And the next thing you know, her rheumatoid factor is down, out of her blood system within 6 months. So that's, again, more information that's going to go into your skin, and it's going to be absorbed the same way. And it's going to go into those mitochondria. It's going to start generating energy, and it's going to start getting rid of inflammation. Somebody asked if I could talk about magnesium and arthritis. Let me just talk about magnesium and inflammation. And of course, rheumatoid factor is an indicator of arthritis. But let me talk about magnesium and inflammation, period. Any inflammatory response in the body, except those coming from trauma. If you get hit by a car and you break your leg and you've got inflammation, that doesn't mean you're magnesium deficient, but means you're unlucky. No, I'm just kidding. But it doesn't mean you're magnesium deficient. But most inflammatory things, we know what we're talking about here with arthritis. Diabetes is often inflammatory related, and also insulin resistant, which is another form of inflammation. Cancers are inflammatory related, on and on. Migraine headaches, inflammatory related. All these things can be proactively knocked out of their path and off their track with Remag and Remag lotion. Okay, next slide is Remite. Remite is so wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 12-part multiple mineral that supports the structure and function of the body, all the organs, the glands, and the hormones. Okay. incredible, incredible. The chromium, zinc, iodine, manganese, magnesium, and selenium have all been associated with balancing blood sugar. And as more nutritional testing is done, we will learn that all the minerals are important in blood sugar balance. Plus, we've got thyroid support, all the endocrine system. Remite is a true electrolyte. It is going to fire you up. I mean, fire, fire. It is awesome. You're going to get energized from it. And it's going to be so supportive of your mind and your heart as well. So excellent, excellent product. Again, part of the protocol. You start with the Remag, quarter teaspoon, and a couple days, quarter teaspoon, and you build up to a saturation dose. Same thing with Remite. You start with the quarter teaspoon and you add a quarter teaspoon until you get to a saturation dose. And that's all laid out for you in the protocol, okay? Now, I've got somebody asking, Kathy Kincaid, I've been using Remag and Remite in 3 ounces of juice followed by a quart of water. It's not a mistake to do it that way, Kathy. It's just fine. That's perfect. If that's the way you do it, that's fine. Dr. Dean isn't thrilled about juice because it's got a lot of sugar in it, and sugar is a magnesium waster. But what we're concerned about is that you're using the product and you're getting it in your system and you're adding your water and you're getting properly hydrated. So yes, stick with that. And if you want to really knock it up to the next level, just try cutting out the juice and putting it into the Remite. You're not going to lose anything except the sugar. And that's a good thing that to be without is all that sugar. Okay, next slide, Realign. I always say Realign is Cinderella in the basement, doing all the hard work, keeping the house clean while all the girls are up partying at the ball. Because Remag and Remite are very impactful. You know, you feel those things right away. Boom, boom. They come in your system. You're like, wow, what was that? Realign, you take Realign and you're like, I don't feel anything necessarily. I don't think it's doing anything for me, but it is doing something in your liver. And that's the most important thing. Now, we talked at great length about the B vitamins today. All the B vitamins in Realign are in their methylated and natural form, and they're going to help your liver. They're going to help digesting food, blood sugar balance. But the other great thing that it does is that it also helps to metabolize acetyl alcohol, acetaldehyde. And what that is the sugar alcohols from all sugar products in the body. Now, the big heavy hitters on that are alcohol, like quite literally tequila or vodka or whatever, beer. Okay, but also people who have yeast overgrowth, also people who consume a lot of carbs. Those sugar alcohols turn into toxins and hang out in your body, and Remag will usher them right out. It's a great heavy metal detox as well. It's got L-methionine, precursor to glutathione, and then your L-taurine, which is fantastic. So Realign, I say, a hug for your liver. Just give your liver a big hug and take your Realign, and just absolutely wonderful. The next thing we want to talk about in the next line is restructure. Restructure is so special because it was actually developed, this protein. It's a 3-part protein, okay? It's a pea protein, it's a rice protein, and it's got a whey protein in it. But hold on, people, it does not have the milks in it. It's no casein part to it. And what do you call it?
Lactose.
Lactose is like 0.0625. But it's got this really cool protein in it. And what it does is it's highly absorbable. It's very good for your body. It was developed by a cardiologist. Dr. Dean loved it, bought the formula, swapped it out, put some extra boost in it with lysine, very important for protecting the immune system. And then we added our RNA drop powder to it, which gives it an extra boost and really has it impactful at the muscular level, at the skeletal level. It's the perfect meal for high blood sugar, perfect for yeast overgrowth. You can mix it with water, coconut milk, almond milk, any variation thereof, and you can add nuts and coconut oil or eggs if you'd like a little keto kick to it. It's very versatile and it's super delicious. We have a great video from one of our customers who just made, he's so sweet. He just made the very first video he's ever made in his life, 67 years old, was so inspired, had to show us his restructure protein pancake mix. And he made restructure protein pancakes for everybody in the video. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And I tried them and they're very good. And so we'll get that video out pretty soon and you'll be able to see his recipe. We've had our customers who make our restructure cookies. We've had customers make restructure banana bread, and we've had customers make restructure frosting for cupcakes. So listen, restructure is very awesome. If you can do all that with it, you've got a great product on your hands. So love restructure as well. And then the next thing we're going to talk about, which is certainly last but not least, is the RNA drops. And I'd love to talk about the RNA drops. I have been with the RNA drops from the beginning, quite literally. And I must say that there's nothing like them. There's just absolutely nothing like them. They are a biological sugar. What does that mean? It means they're biologically compatible with the body in a sugar form. If you've noticed, a lot of people are not happy about sugar. A lot of these fake sugars that they're using, the sucroses and all those other kinds, these are not good for the body. And also you've got your fructose sugar, your high corn, all that nonsense. Those are not good. What does the body want? The body wants the sugar that it can recognize at a cellular level. And that's what the RNA drops have. It is a sugar that is recognized at the cellular level and the body can actually use it at a cellular level to create RNA and DNA. It can be used as a backbone. It can be used as a cell replicator. And this is what we want, because people are bombarding their bodies with bad sugars that are not helping the body. They're causing toxic reactions like we learned about in Realign. They're causing, acetaldehyde and all these other kinds of things to be going on in the body. What RNA drops do is it gives the body a beneficial sugar. And not only that, the way that the RNA drops are made, and of course, this is the brilliance of Dr. Dean and her background of using natural remedies and also homeopathy, is that they are kind of like a homeopathy. They're not homeopathic, I want to say that, but they're made in that way where there's a resonance, there's a frequency that carries forward from generation to generation. And what that frequency does is it allows an energy modification in your force field, so to speak, in your force field of love. So you've got an energy modification and a cellular modification. And ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get any better than that, because that is what we are. We are energy, we are light, we are salt and light, we are absolutely minerals. The Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song, we are stardust. We are all these minerals that we've just got done talking about. We are all these great substances that we just got done talking about. And now we are also the RNA drops. I mean, those compatible biological sugars are so essential for cellular replication. And if anybody is evidence of what using the RNA drops are, that would be Dr. Dean, who looks like she's about, I don't know, maybe. I think she looks probably in her 40s, and she's a little bit more advanced in her age than that. So you can take all of these products with confidence and pure 100% unbridled joy every single day of your life for the rest of your life, as I have done. And you can take any prescription you want, Take them all. Take none. Do whatever you want to do with your prescriptions, because there's no conflict. These are all, again, targeted to the cellular level, biologically compatible, 100% extraordinary products, very pure, very clean. And what's going to happen with your drugs is eventually you're not going to need them anymore. Hopefully, we say that hopefully you're not going to need them anymore, because you are going to restore your body at a cellular level. And eventually what is going to happen is the strength and the sustenance that your body will get will start to make you aware. And you'll be like, I don't know. I feel a little sped up today. Maybe I don't need that thyroid. Oh, I feel a little bit off today. Maybe I don't need that high blood pressure pill. Oh, I feel better today. Maybe I don't need to take these 5 different chemical cocktails for AFib. That's what you will hopefully get to if you stay with the program, stay consistent, stay true to it. Now, let me tell you something else that we did for everybody on the Total Body Reset is we actually appointed somebody to be a absolute dedicated health guide. to the people who are using the Total Body Reset. We want you to feel uniquely supported. And of course, you know, everybody is uniquely supported, but Julie Dickey has come on board and she is reaching out and talking with people. She's able to carry just like a little humming pigeon. She's able to take the messages straight to Dr. Dean, as do everybody else. But sometimes people who are using the bundle have complicated health challenges and they need some extra direction. And that's what she's able to do, find resources for you and help you in that regard. Okay. So, Carolyn, what did I leave out about the products?
Wow, I think you covered it very well. I do want, you said something about at least drink a quarter water a day. Don't use that as license to drink less than you should. You really want to be drinking all the water you can.
Okay. And also here's another common question. People, you know, they use the pink Himalayan salt in their on their food and they want to know, do they need it in their water?
Yes, in the food, it still has to dissolve and find its way into your cells. And I think a lot of the salt we eat on our food doesn't get properly dissolved, especially if you're not drinking enough water, and it just goes out in the toilet. So to get that salt dissolved in your drinking water is the first step to getting it absorbed into your cells.
I know every person, you know, that I talk to, I say, you know, when you go to the beach for a day, people feel so good at the beach and they don't understand. They're just sucking all that beautiful mineralization into their lungs. They're bringing it into their bodies through their skin. They're swimming in the ocean and they feel extraordinary. And I say that our sea salted water is just like the ocean in a glass. You're just taking in that beautiful environment and bringing it into your body, and it will eventually restore you in the same fashion.
Very good. Perfect.
Okay, excellent. Now, also, here's another one. What if you have high blood pressure? Can you still take the pink Himalayan sea salt?
Well, what people do there is they just go very gradually. Part of it is being a bit anxious that you've been told for so long that you can't take any sodium, but that's table salt, NaCl. It's not sea salt. Sea salt has less sodium chloride because it has all the other 71 minerals in it. So you just go slowly. And, you know, hopefully as you're taking your magnesium, and if your blood pressure is related to magnesium deficiency, then your blood pressure is going to be attenuated by your magnesium intake. So just go slow and your body will tell you what it requires or what's not good for it. We don't push people. If people say, oh, I'm afraid of salt, I can't take it, well, then don't take it. But what you'll gradually do is in a sense, balance your body's minerals and balance your body's hydration, so that we'll have people who say, well, you know, I'm not drinking enough water and I'm starting to feel dehydrated. And then it kicks in that their body is actually requesting more hydration. We had that happen in the very beginning when people would take a lot of the Remag, and it might have even been before Remite, and they said, oh, you know, my mouth is dry and my tongue is dry, I feel dehydrated. Well, they weren't drinking enough water with their magnesium Remag, because the water kind of works with the minerals. The water goes into cells and pulls minerals behind it, or the minerals will go into the cell and pull water behind it. You need the water in the cells to make the biochemistry work.
Excellent, excellent. Now, somebody's asking, Carolyn, is this forever? Will I just take these products forever? And also, will the reset help antibiotic damage to mitochondria through fluoroquinolones?
Okay, the forever is until the point where all our farmlands are remineralized with rock dust, and until that occurs, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture can assure you you're getting 600 milligrams of magnesium in your good daily diet, you'll be taking them until then, because we are replacing what's lost from our food and what's lost from our water. Our water is so toxic with all the drugs and chemicals in it. Any body of water that's measured anywhere in the world now will have drug residue in it. So all the water treatment plants treat the water, filter it. We use filters in the house. So the water comes to you with nothing in it, no minerals. And that's where we're supposed to get our minerals. So that's why you have to replace it with the sea salt and the Remag and Remite. In terms of fluoroquinolones, yes, I've developed kind of a theory when I started hearing about tendon rupture with fluoroquinolones, knowing that fluoride binds up magnesium. I kind of realized that maybe the people who really get these fluoroquinolone toxicity problems started out as being very magnesium deficient. I've had a number of former athletes who said, you know, they were working out and they had a race or whatever coming up. They got sick. They took an antibiotic. It was a Cipro, and boom, they were out. They either had tendon rupture or tendon damage. And as for healing the problem, it's certainly going to help the mitochondria. Local application with Remag lotion can help the tendons and the muscles. We've had a lot of people tell us that if they catch their ciprotoxicity within the first week, they can overcome that. The longer you've had the damage, the longer it's going to take. But we've still had people who've told us that all the stress and all the layers that come after the Cipro attack, the Cipro poisoning, we were talking about the adrenals get weakened, the thyroid punks out, all the things that we work on with our Remag, Remite, and Realign, all these layers, all the gut problems, we're working on that with the yeast detox and the prescriptive cyst. So we just find that the whole protocol from I've been reading nutrition for 50 years, and all the work I've done over the years culminates in using a very simple protocol of highly absorbed nutrients that can overcome just about anything that is thrown at you. And if it doesn't, if there are symptoms left over, we work with total biology. And then if there are still symptoms, we tell people to get some further testing to see if at that point there can be some genetics that we can work with. But we don't start with the genetics because that's a whole Pandora's box that doesn't really lead to any conclusions, because what we would do for any sort of genetic polymorphism or genetic variation, I refuse to say genetic mutation, but for any sort of genetic variation, I would just keep using the protocol anyway. I wouldn't change my stance because everything is covered in what we're doing, we feel.
Very good. Excellent words. Excellent words. Yes. And can you say a bit more about why you take the RNA drops? Is it a sweetener or is it to rebalance the sugar mechanism? Okay, it's neither. Thank you for asking the question so we can be clear. The RNA drops are a biological sugar that supports cellular replication. And what we're saying with that is that when your cells are making RNA and DNA to actually construct the cell from protein and amino acids, they build it on a sugar. These RNA drops are a super sugar. They are a biological sugar harvested through the barley germination process. They're 100% natural. And through that, at a cellular level with the eye cell, you are getting this special impetus in the drops to replicate your cells more perfectly. And in addition to that, they have a harmonic in them, like a homeopath, that also has an energy frequency that also can help support the body. People say they feel blissed out, they feel a detached state, they get over their anxiety. Relationships and people who used to bother them don't bother them anymore because they reach that harmonic level, that detachment and that kind of blissed out joy when they use the drops consistently, again, over time, this is the state that they achieve. And what we say is the cares of life grow strangely dim. You just don't get as stressed out about things as you used to. And that's actually a perfect question, Kathy. Thank you for asking it, because we're going to go to our bonus material slide where we're going to talk about what is available for you as somebody who's participated in our webinar today. Dr. Dean has whipped out another gracious and generous gift. And if you go to the URL that's on that page, which is rnareset.com/anxiety-gifts, you will find our offer for you. And the offer is actually the RNA drops. They've never been on sale before, ever. We do not put the RNA drops on sale. They are a very unique proprietary formula that only Dr. Dean knows how to make. And nobody can replicate them, touch them, or even has the idea or the mind to even know what they would be. And so what is wonderful about the RNA drops is we started in 2011 introducing this product through the RNA drops mini bottle. It was a sample bottle that was $14.99, and we are actually saying farewell to our mini bottle here in the month of May. We are taking it out of production. It has served us well for many years. We love it dearly. It has introduced so many of our customers to the miracle of the RNA drops. And in fact, some of the people that are our closest and most wonderful customer friends to this day are people who started by buying a sample bottle of the RNA drops back in 2011, 2012. So again, rnareset.com/anxiety-gifts is the URL. That slide should be up on our screen here. And when you go there, you'll see a code for the mini drops. $8.99 is the price. I know you're not seeing the link because I think we're having some technical problems. There it is. There it is, the link. rnareset.com/anxiety-gifts. Dr. Dean's other great gifts are on that page as well. You've got modules that she's offering you, educational modules, and the offer on the RNA drops minis. Now, let me say, if you've never used the drops, you want to take advantage of this because you're never going to find the drops on sale again like this. And also, if you use the drops on a regular basis, if you buy like 10 little mini bottles, you'll have the equivalent of a regular size bottle, and you're going to save $10 on your purchase. So pick up a handful. They're great for your friends. They're great for you. The shelf life on them is 2.5 years, so you've got plenty of time to use them. Stock up, store up on the RNA drops, and let that be our fond farewell to our good friend, the mini bottle. And then after we're done with this production run, you won't be able to get them anymore for people who, a lot of people get them, 10, 12 at a time and hand them out to their friends. Okay, now the final thing in our final slide is we just want you to know again that we've got you can't get the link to work. Okay, I'm going to try the link right now on my computer just to make sure, because Chad always does a wonderful job. ANXIETYGIFTS, and I'm looking at it and it's working just perfectly. So again, it's rnareset.com/anxiety-gifts. And you'll see she's got 4 modules: Melatonin Magic, Maximizing Magnesium, the Theater of the Mind, and the Emotional Freedom Technique that she talked about earlier for controlling anxiety. And plus, you get a free copy of Dr. Dean's Magnesium Deficiency Anxiety book and the special one-time offer of the RNA Drops trial size bottle, only $8.99, and the shopping code there, 899 MINI, all caps, 899 mini. Get a bunch of those. That's awesome. Now, what else are we, is the barley minimal enough for gluten sensitive? The RNA drops really don't have gluten in them. It's such the point, excuse me, 0.10 parts per million is the threshold for what's considered gluten-free. And last year we had a situation where they were up, a little bit, like maybe 0.15 or something. So we had to say they were gluten positive, but really it's very, very, very modest. So we don't have people with gluten issues who have problems with the drops. But if you think you're going to have a problem with them, then you can either use them on your skin, and I just say right at your wrist, like perfume, Rub them in right there because they're going to go into your body and be equally effective. Okay, let's see. And where are we? We've got one more slide, and that slide is just to go to the Magnesium Miracle, the resources that you've got. Magnesium Miracle at Amazon.com. You've got the A-free books under drcarolyndeanlive.com. You've got all of our products. You've got drcarolyndean.com, which is all of her resources, and you've got our radio show archives. So support at RNA Reset, SUPPORT at RNAreset.com. We are awesome, 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 good to go. And I think that kind of wraps it up today, Carolyn.
Yes, very good, Ginney. Wonderful. Yes, we should warn people we do tend to go over just to get to all the questions. I hope people don't mind, and I hope you learned and enjoyed, and that you'll continue to go to support at RNA Reset if you have any questions at all.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Chad, our wonderful expert and our technical guy who's always behind the scenes for us. And thank you, everybody who typed in and participated today. Again, support SUPPORT at RNA Reset for any questions that you would have. And the links are not in the description box on the video right now, but they will be a little bit later, and you can always get them off the video. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. Excellent. Thank you so much for all of your work and your advocacy for people everywhere. You're amazing.
Aloha.